Hey everyone, welcome back to Track Chats. Josh and I in this series are going to be talking about lower back strengthening for powerlifting, different ways that we like to think about strengthening the lower back, and also give a few examples.
Yeah, sweet. So I guess 3 ways we're going to go through today are, ways to hold lower back strength or hold lumbar strength, so such like an RDL, how to specifically train the lower back more specifically versus the hips, and to kind of train them together as well with hips and lumbar strength. Do you want to elaborate a little more?
Yeah, cool. So with like lower back strengthening, there's obviously so many different options you can choose from, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. Like the biggest one, for example, what's the difference between a 45-degree back extension and a GHR? Feels like they train the same things, but at the end of the day, two different tools for two very different jobs. And then we're also going to touch on things like all your hinging variations and how that plays a part in your programming as well.
Yeah, we're going to even see if we can add maybe like some sort of squeeze and a band as well if we've got time, to sort of explain different reasons of why you would add those sort of constraints to the exercise too.
Yeah, 100%. So do you want to start with like hinging? So
yeah,
essentially what Josh was saying before, we have something like an RDL. We'll typically use a hinging variation like an RDL when we're trying to look to hold a position. So for example, if we're trying to hold lumbar extension, an RDL is a really good way to hold this position of the spine as we go through movement. How are some different ways you can modify the RDL?
Well, you can look at heel elevation, toe elevation. That typically goes through, I guess, different ways to look at your center of mass. If you have issues, controlling your balance in either deadlift or squat when your hips kind of go backwards and forwards in space, you can add some sort of ball squeeze or foam roller squeeze. That's just going to have a little bit of, different motions in terms of the sacrum, so the tailbone, as well as different muscular activity around the lower back as well. So the squeeze can sort of increase the lumbar, demands of the smaller muscles around the spine, whereas a band can kind of not turn them off, but allow more movement through the sacrum to sort of go into extension rather than the actual lumbar itself. So, should we start there?
Yeah, cool. Let's start with that. Cool. So starting off with the RDL, Josh is going to show what it looks like to hold extension of his lumbar spine as he goes through the movement. Okay, we like using this exercise as it's something that transfers really, really nicely into things like our squat and deadlift, where we need to hold a certain orientation of the back. Okay, this is going to help strengthen the muscles responsible for holding lumbar extension and improve the capacity of them as a load or basically volume of our main compounds like our squats or our deadlifts go up. Josh is going to show next what it would look like to lose lumbar extension as he goes through the movement. So essentially we're going to see some flexion, okay, through the lower back as he goes down. Okay, this is not what we're looking for. We're looking to hold extension through the movement. So the next exercise we're going to touch on is a GHR, or the glute ham raise. Now, this is an exercise we don't see used as often, although it's very, very good. So the GHR is used to train lumbar extension primarily. Okay, so this is really nice. If you struggle to hold lumbar extension in things like your deadlifts or squats, this will isolate basically your erector muscles on the back and help you move from a position of flexion to extension. Now, with this exercise, you can either have a straight or bent knee, okay? The focus is on the lower back. So what Josh is going to do is he's going to demonstrate coming from a position of flexion up into extension. So we're really looking for that almost like an arching look, okay, through the lower back. And we're really trying to treat all the muscles responsible for extending the lower spine. Okay, so this is a really nice way that you can either warm up these squats or deadlifts, or you can even use it as an accessory, okay? But you should be feeling the muscles primarily in your lower back working to help extend the spine, and you'll also get a little bit of glute and hamstring there as well.
So the third one we'll go through today is the 45-degree back extension. This is, more typical in powerlifters and in gyms, because this is in the gyms more often than the GHR. The way we like to think about this exercise is this is more of essentially a pushing motion rather than the GHR where John was explaining before. It's more about the lumbar extensor muscles pulling you up into position. John's really thinking about thrusting his glutes and hamstrings into this pad, whereas primarily looking at hip extension here, but to finish the movement off, we're getting a lot of lumbar extension. So this is just going to help, make sure the hip extension strength is as high or as strong as the lumbar extension strength, because we definitely need both in powerlifting. So there's 3 exercises for you to try in your own training. 3 different exercises that they all train lumbar strength in a way, but very different. So you've got RDLs, which hold positions of the pelvis, primarily looking at the lumbar. you're looking at GHR, which is a little bit more lumbar focused versus the 45-degree back extensions, which is a bit more hip focused. If you've got any more questions or comments, just leave them in the comment section or send us a DM on Instagram.
Yeah, perfect. Let's go.